All right, guys, I am going to come in hot here, get right into this one. So, most self-development and most personal development gurus and sort of hacksters, snake oil salesmen, they've got it all wrong. And frankly, they might even be wasting your time and your money, quite possibly. These folks are going to give you these 10 or 20 bullet point lists of must-do things to sort of attain the better life, sort of enlightenment. And frankly, guys, most of this is the same rehashed, repackaged, regurgitated advice with the newest guru sort of spin on it. And a lot of folks, a lot of guys are trying to sort of add their way to a better life. They're trying to take more on. More routines, more hacks, more information, more noise, more BS. But guys, I'm going to tell you the real path. And that real path is subtraction. It's not doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it better, more efficiently. That, in a nutshell, is VIA Negativa. All right, guys. There are a lot of guys, most of the guys who really are, into the personal and self-development, who have committed themselves to it, looking to sort of level up, to use a, common vernacular. There's not really a motivation or discipline problem with these guys. They have, the motivation, they have the discipline, they have sort of the willpower, and their heart may even be in the right place. But their head is not. It's all over the place. And it's very understandable because there's too much clutter, too much noise, too much input. They have an overload problem, too much coming in. As I said, there's too much information. You hear the term TMI. Clearly, that is a problem. There's too many opinions, whether they're getting them from friends, family, social media, YouTube. They're just coming in, and they let too much in. And then they have too many habits they don't follow. Again, they wake up and look at their phone, their computer. They got this checklist of 20 habits I need to check off just for check off sake. It's mental masturbation, guys. And again, so many of these folks think they need to just add more. Another morning routine, another productivity hack, another system. And guys, I'm telling you, that is not the answer. Unequivocally, that is no. You don't need more. What you need to do is remove. And there's a concept, guys. It is a Latin concept. It is called VIA Negativa. So I stumbled across this in my readings, in my sort of, studyings, probably a decade ago, give or take. But I'll give you the elevator pitch of VIA Negativa. As you might have guessed, it means the negative way. Not anything it probably throws you off there, but it's sort of an ancient philosophy, sort of theology as well. You will see its leanings in Stoicism and also early Christianity. So, and I'll give you sort of a definition that I pulled here. So instead of defining truth, improvement, by what something is, and with the Christianity, but what God is, it focuses on what it's not. Meaning, it's going to remove falsehoods, distractions, and excess to see what remains. VIA Negativa. Now, looking at it more of a philosophical angle, it suggests that subtraction is far more powerful than addition. And I firmly believe this. Again, clarity comes from not piling on more habits, more tools, more systems, more beliefs. But it puts, the discipline is stripping away of things, bad habits, wasted time, shallow inputs, to uncover sort of strength, focus, and ultimately purpose. So, as I said, guys, improving your life is not by adding. It's by eliminating and removing the things and the people that are holding you back. So, guys, I'm going to give you my 4 to 5 ways to do this. I'm just kidding, guys. Anyways, why addition is failing you. Okay, guys, look around. Literally take a minute and look around. Everywhere you turn, you go to your YouTube homepage, and if you are into self-development, you're going to see something with a number. Do this X number routine. Do these X number of habits. And guys, in my videos, I've been guilty of this as well. But, you have to sort of pick and choose and sort of vet what you're looking at. I'm not saying mine are all perfect. Don't get me wrong. But, stack this with that. This morning routine, and that's become very cliche, these morning routines that'll fix your life. Guys, I promise you, taking a fucking ice shower, putting your face in an ice bucket, putting your balls in the sun and all these, crazy shit. These things, even if they are helpful, on their own merits, they're not going to fix your life by checking them off the list. You guys are just too overloaded with a lot of nonsense and a lot of bullshit. And here's what happens. A lot of guys will try this stuff for a week, maybe two. Hell, they might even get through a month. But ultimately, it becomes overbearing. There's just too much to do. And guys are doing it, again, to just check things off a list. They're not doing it for the actual intent or the real reason that it's going to work. They're just doing it as, again, a checklist. So what happens? Well, they're going to burn out, they're going to quit, and they're going to give up. Why? Well, because down deep, your life is already overfilled with garbage. There's just too much going on. Guys, you don't build a strong guy, a strong man, by stacking more on top of weakness. I've talked about this before, guys. If you do not have a strong foundation, whatever you put on top of it is just going to crumble. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I won't get into engineering, but I do know that without a foundation, whatever you're building is just going to crumble. One of the ways you do build something is you cut out what is weak. Guys, we have to get rid of weakness and this clutter. Think of cancer. When you have a cancer, say it a tumor, whether it's, brain tumor or wherever it is in your body, you need to cut that shit out. Remove it. All right, guys. So let's get this down to sort of a practical level. So if you are looking to sort of, become better or sort of level up in your life, I'm going to give you sort of here, guys, and I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to give you sort of 5 ideas. I'm not going to give you a bullet point list. I'm going to use word salad on it here a little bit. But 5 things that you can remove from your life immediately. And yes, guys, that is a little ironic. All right, first and foremost, guys, and I think you're all aware of this, is the digital noise. Social media, your phone and all this BS. And this is the biggest one, guys. You are overstimulated. Your dopamine is fried from the constant scrolling, these 30, 60, 90-second sound bites and, sort of hot takes, notifications, endless content. Most people wake up and the first thing they do, the first damn thing they do is grab their phone and they start scrolling. You have to stop that, guys. I've talked about this before. People don't even realize, and I am as guilty as anybody of this. Take your phone and go to your, whether it's Apple or Samsung, there's sort of a usage or data usage or app usage. Go in there and look at these. Look at your IG, maybe it's your Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and we'll track your usage for a week or two. You guys will be blown away. People are wasting literally days per week simply scrolling through their phones, looking at nothing. And guys, it's not about your level of acumen, your intelligence. You just lack focus and clarity, and you're giving your time away to this nonsense, the social media nonsense. And every time you grab that phone, guys, you're going to fracture your attention. It's going to be split. I know a lot of people talk about, you've probably heard the myth of multitasking, and it's complete bullshit. If you're focusing on something, say you wanted, whether it's a work project, writing a book, painting, whatever it is, you grab that phone, to check that text that came in or, the notification from IG. It's going to take more time to get your focus back. You need to put that thing aside, have times where, it's not even in the same fucking room. You need to put that aside. And frankly, guys, attention is our absolute most valuable asset. It's the currency in this modern economy. And most people are pissing it away every fucking day. We just piss it away on just nonsense. All right, guys, in each of these, I'm going to have some sort of action steps here. So grab your phone, not only check your usage, but one of the things is check the apps you have on your phone. I do this occasionally. I don't have a lot. I'm not an app guy. But if there's ones you don't use, just delete them. Take them off your phone just for clarity. There's not so much clutter on your screen. Get rid of them. Set specific times to check your phone. Guys, I'm not telling you need to get rid of social media. It's sort of part of the fabric of our society. You can if you want to, and it's probably not a terrible idea, but have set times. So I said not first thing. So maybe not till 9 a.m., maybe a hard and fast rule that you don't check your phone, at least social media till 9 a.m. Maybe at lunchtime you give yourself 15 minutes to check, and then maybe once before bed. Not in your bed, guys. And then, as I said, this big one is not for the first hour of your day. I've been guilty, guys. I've done this, but now I have a rule. I get up, I read, I do some work. I try and get at least 2 hours in before I touch my phone. It doesn't, your time doesn't have to be the same as mine, but I would suggest not starting your day brain scrambling. The same thing, guys, there is too. You want to stay away from those emails. And you're going to feel withdrawal, guys. And this is a good sign. That means, your phone had control. If you have withdrawal, it means it had control. It was fucking with your dopamine. I promise you it is. And guys, what controls you? Well, what does it do? Yeah, it owns you. All right, guys, let's move on to the second thing we want to remove, to get rid of, VIA negativa. I don't know if I should have started with this one or not because it's so critically important. Low quality people. Guys, and this is going to be a hard truth for a lot of you. This could be family, friends, like coworkers, but especially like acquaintances. People that are just negative. And most people won't admit this, but their environment is weak. I was sort of in this boat myself. Because when you go and do the same things, my work environment where I used to work, before I retired, was just pervasively negative. And it was just, and that wears on you. We've probably all heard it. You're the accumulation of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And that's reality. There's a reason it's a trope, because it is reality. But you got to cut out, guys, the people who complain, bitch, moan, and they're constantly fucking negative. I'm sure you've also heard the term energy vampires. That's what these people are. They suck the life out of everything. You need to get the hell away from these people. People who drift. They literally have no goals, no mission, no purpose. This could be your friends or acquaintances, guys. It doesn't make them bad people. But if you're looking to level up and become your best self, these are not people you're going to want to align with. Or at the very least, limit your time with them. And this also goes to the next point. People who sort of settle. People that have accepted average and mediocrity as if it's, just a foregone conclusion of life. They've settled in their wives and girlfriends. They've settled into habits, drinking constantly, eating garbage food, watching TV and sports for endless hours. And then people who've settled on their body. Guys, you look at somebody, you can tell a lot about them. We've talked about this in many of videos. You see the guys who have given up. I don't have to explain to you who they are. You know who they are, and it tells a lot about you. Guys, you're not going to rise above your circle. You're going to sink into it. And one of the things I've said before as well is the crabs in the bucket. This is something you're going to have to fight against. You're going to have to rail against. Because when you do start to level up and, make yourself better, there's people in your circle, and if you don't cut them out, they're going to try and pull you back down. The crabs in the bucket. All right, guys, here, let's look at some action steps for this. So, audit your top 5 relationships, the people you are around the most, okay? And anybody who drains you, distracts you, dilutes you, cut them out, guys. Cut them out. You have to either cut them totally. In many cases, you might have to, if they're that much of a, negative influence on you. Or, like I said, limit your time with them. Even, it's like I said, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, whoever. If they're negative, you guys, you have to limit that exposure to them. You need to seek friction, guys, not comfort. I've hit on this. I've got my new book. I've got a chapter in and of itself on how comfort lies to us. You don't need more friends, guys. You simply need higher standards. All right, guys. Number 3. Now, this one's going to be a bit of a sort of hot take, and I'd love to know your opinions on this one, but a lot of folks think working more equals getting ahead. especially in a place like the United States where that's sort of that grind set is what is, accepted. And people will leave, I was guilty of this. You felt guilty for taking the vacation that was yours. I'm looking at my emails on vacations. In your 9 to 5, guys, I would suggest, and this is, you've heard the term probably quiet quitting as well. But most jobs are just so much busy work, especially in sort of this white collar sector. There's emails, there's meetings about meetings. Noise disguises productivity. You see people like, oh, I was swamped today. And then you look like, well, what did you do? What did you achieve in the way of results? And it's usually precious fuck all. As a side note, guys, there was an article, I don't know if it was an article or a book. I think it was an article not too long ago, and I think it was titled Bullshit Jobs. And the guy analyzed a lot of these sort of white collar jobs and how much nonsense is going out or going into these. Even the people working the jobs know they're bullshit, literally bullshit jobs. I thought of my own, even at the highest levels when, I'm like, had more important decisions, to fill out an 8-9 hour day, guys, it's just not there. So what I would suggest, and what a lot of people do, is identify that sort of 20%, going off the Pareto principle, find that 20% that moves the needle and do that work. You get into work, nail that shit down, get it done. And then if, again, other stuff that you can cut out, delegate, or minimize, do so. And, guys, you don't have to look busy. Do your work, get what's expected of you done. But there's extra time, guys, and I did this myself. Focus on your sort of exit plan or something that maybe is your side hustle. Again, most jobs do not fill that 8-hour, 9-hour day. I know there are exceptions, guys, but don't bullshit me. I was in that environment for 25 years. Again, there are exceptions, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about here. Again, efficiency is not about doing more, guys. It's about doing less, but doing it with intent. All right, guys, this goes back to sort of like number 1. This is number 4 here. Remove the constant consumption. Now, this could be, again, social media, but something like podcasts, videos, courses, in books that you never apply. I was again, you want to find somebody that was, that. I used to read constantly, and I still do. You can see the books here, but I never applied it. It was just knowledge for knowledge's sake. But it's not learning, it's sort of hiding. I'm hiding behind all this learning, but not taking any action. And this consumption, it can be sort of, it can fool you. It feels productive, but it's just passive consumption. Like, oh, I watched this podcast and I learned how to, do whatever. It's just passive consumption. Guys, knowledge without action, which would be applied knowledge, is truly a vanity metric. And quite frankly, it's kind of fucking useless. Maybe you go on Jeopardy and maybe then it pays off. But again, you have to take the knowledge that you're accumulated and apply it. You have to take action, guys. All right, so action step. So let's make a rule here. For every hour you consume, apply it to 2 hours of creation. So say you read a book and it had ideas on to how to write a book. Okay, well, actually write the book. That was, for me, that was one of the big things. So I'm using that example. And then cut your inputs in half. Guys, going back to that first example, when we looked at our phone usage time, if you're on Instagram 12 hours a week, 15 hours a week, you got to cut that shit out. And then, one of the things is things that are working, reread and implement instead of chasing new. New is not always good, guys. There's plenty of books, and I don't know if any of these, I've probably a couple of these, that I've reread a few times because they have actionable, things that move the needle. When you're just reading stuff, just to read it, I read 100 books this year. Right. 98 of them were fucking useless. You do the things, chase the things that move the needle, guys. Again, a lot of us don't need more knowledge. What we need is execution. You need action. And most importantly, you need results. The only thing that matters in this world, guys, is results. All right, guys, number 5, we want to remove is comfort dependency. As I said, guys, I've got an entire chapter devoted to this on the book I'm writing currently. In our Western society, this is to me, one of the biggest problems. Okay, this is the root. Our modern life is absolutely engineered for comfort. And just think of it. I mean, you barely have to get up. You can order, whether it be the stuff you watch on TV, your food, your groceries, if somebody to clean your house. Pretty much everything is at the click of a button. And it's absolutely killing us, especially men. It kills your edge, it kills your willpower, and it kills your drive. We see it everywhere, guys. Even something as you're using comfort, not even going physical. Hard conversations. People will absolutely go to the end of the earth to avoid hard conversations. It's talked about physical discomfort. In the US, and I've hit on this over and over and over, just look around. Everybody, 75+% are overweight, slovenly, sloppy. And again, it's because any hint of discomfort is avoided, and then avoiding risk. Guys, I'm not saying you need to jump off a cliff, but there are things in your life that are, risk-taking, whether it be maybe something slightly financial, using the physical thing, joining a sort of self-defense or martial arts type class. That is a risk. You're going to risk get punched in the face, getting knocked out. But guys, that's what makes us feel alive. You've got to sort of do this. All right, guys, action. So do one uncomfortable thing daily. And guys, if you do get used to it, then you have to switch it. There's more science behind that. But whether this guy's something, some people cold plunge, cold shower, writing in a journal, whatever it is, going to the gym, going for a run, having the conversation with your wife or your girlfriend about something that's sort of been eating at you, having a conversation with your boss about something that's eating at you. One thing a day, guys, not asking too much. Train your body. I'm going to hit on this. It's a core tenet of mine. Train your body. Every day you should be doing something. And as I said, say what needs to be said. This doesn't mean you have to be a jerk off. You have to be an asshole. But if something's on your mind and it's been weighing on you, say what needs to be said. It may not go your way. It may not be sort of resolved to your satisfaction. But at least you got it out there. Because here's the truth, guys. A man who's built on comfort is, he's just going to collapse like that proverbial house of cards when any sort of pressure gets put on him. You get stronger, guys, by putting yourself in willingly uncomfortable situations. All right, guys. So let's kind of wrap this up a little bit here. So with the VIA Negativa, we need to stop asking, what should I add to my life? That's not the question. You start asking, what can I remove? Because when you remove these things, distraction, weakness, noise, excess, what do we have left after that? Well, we should have clarity, focus, and power. We're going to have a sharper version of you that was there, but it was just buried under all these inferences, this mountain of garbage. A good analogy here, guys, is think of, the hoarders. Well, that's what a lot of us are with sort of habits and hacks. We hoard these habits and hacks. And then that house, you can't walk through it. You can't maneuver. And it becomes overwhelming. We need to clear the clutter, guys. Get better by removing VIA Negativa. All right, guys, I appreciate you guys sticking with me. As always, guys, drop the comments, subscribe, like, forward this to somebody who needs it. Guys, bit of housekeeping. From the last video, by the way, I'm 52, for those who didn't figure it out. Maybe I do look older than I thought. Got some guys that went on there. There were some folks trolling me, but sort of comes with the territory, and I accept that. But I do appreciate all of you. The channel is growing. The videos are getting more watches, and I appreciate all the guys, all the people that are watching. So, guys, remember, most men are trying to build a better life, especially if you're watching content like mine or, similar to mine. but they're refusing to let go of what's holding them back. It's like they're dragging this, ball and chain or an anchor or whatever. Remember, when you sort of cut these things out, it's easier. Remember, cut first, then build. All right, guys, YouTube tells me that you should be watching this video next here. You guys, remember, lastly, live deliberately.